Hi, I'm Matthew Wood. I'm the head of artistic programming and production at the BBC National Orchestra of Wales. To be able to have this opportunity here in the studio to perform this magnificent work, I think certainly one of Wales's greatest choral orchestral works, and arguably part of the canon of choral orchestral works, which deserves to be known a lot better than what it is. Of course, this is a massive undertaking, and it's a massive piece in its own right, and it deserves a platform on a CD like this. She changes quite a bit over the course of her life in regards to how she writes, but I'd say that ultimately it's incredibly dramatic, and it's utterly accessible. It's brilliantly written. The craftsmanship is outstanding. She's a terrific orchestrator. She has a great sense of colour. She sometimes writes a little bit too heavily, but overall she's an overall craft person. But she has the ability to be able to write very direct and very singable and very hummable and memorable tunes. That's why I think pieces like the Fantasia on Welsh nursery tunes are so popular. But she also can write quite gripping and very serious music as well. I mean, the Missa Cambrensis is a very serious piece in that way. So I think stylistically she does vary. She changes quite a lot. But I think her sense of colour and her sense of drama is something which is instantly recognisable, and that it's something that really draws you in immediately. I think probably first and foremost it reflects more her love of music and of Benjamin Britten in general, because of course the connection to this and the way that it's designed with secular and Welsh texts and coming into a Latin mass essentially is quite similar to something along the style of Britten's War Requiem. And of course she had a very strong connection with Britten for a fair portion of her life. It stopped a little bit after the war, but she still had correspondence with him. But I think absolutely adored his music. And I think first and foremost this is probably one of the main influences on this work. In regards to incorporating Welsh content into her music, there is periods where she did that and there's periods where she didn't do that. And she never really overly spoke about that being a major significant part of her compositional thought. So I suppose what I mean by that, I don't mean she went out in every piece to wave a Welsh flag or to go out of her way to incorporate Welsh content into her music, but I think that she felt very Welsh. She came back to Wales after the period that she spent in London and a little bit of time in Europe, in Vienna, and in England, and then came back to Wales because she felt it was home, and she wanted to be by the seaside, and she wanted to live at Barry, and she wanted to live that life. But I don't think it would be quite correct to say that she went out of her way to incorporate Welsh content into her work. Of course, this is one of the exceptions in that there is Welsh content in this work, along with a lot of other styles and in this work. So again, I think it reflects a lot something like Benjamin Britten's War Requiem. She was extremely self-critical. There were periods in her life where she obviously was suffering from considerable depression. Of course, lots of composers, almost every composer that I know is hyper self-critical. And like Grace Williams, she was hyper self-critical, and she went back and constantly corrected her works and adapted her works and edited her works throughout her life. She wasn't pushy. She didn't go and demand people play her music. And so I think there's a conversation there to be had about Grace and that side of Grace rather than just playing her pieces. So obviously the orchestra has a long history and connection with performing Grace Williams, but primarily that connection has been with a lot of her works, but fundamentally with just a couple of her works really. So we have the nursery rhymes, which we perform quite often. We have the sea sketches, which we perform quite often, but there's a wealth of other material there as well. So we thought it was about time that we examine that material and put forward a series which is dedicated to her. She's obviously Wales, one of Wales's most foremost composers, and arguably, of course, one of Britain's most major composers. But her name may not have gotten outside of the borders of Wales that much, but certainly not outside of the United Kingdom that much. So by doing this, we hope that we promote Grace's music, not just here at home, but also internationally. And by doing this, our chief conductor, our wonderful chief conductor, Ryan Bencroft, is exploring some of her music, not only with us, but now with his other orchestras, particularly the orchestra in Sweden that he's chief with. So we're celebrating her music, not just here at home, but also on those larger platforms.